Hi there, my name is Kate Bremerman, and this is our final project for EDL 951, and it is our case study over monitoring and evaluating district systems, specifically the operations, resources, technology, and their connection to the vision and mission within our district. What I'm going to do for this slideshow presentation is just work through our rubric based with the slides I have and try and make sure I cover all the information in a timely manner. I have kind of a long presentation, so I will try to get through it all efficiently so my video is not an hour long. So first of all, we have to go through and summarize the facts. What do we know? Establishing the facts of the case. So first of all, our district is working to be more innovative. We know that we want to innovate, and our vision and mission is to be innovative. Like all districts, we are underfunded, and we are trying to stretch every penny as far as we can. We also know that we have violated copyright laws. At least one of our teachers have, probably several have. So what hasn't happened? District policy has not been clearly and appropriately communicated, especially as it pertains to copyrights and copyright law and expectations of copyrights. State and federal laws have not been properly communicated, and we have very, very clearly not offered enough professional development to our staff, mainly because the person that violated copyright didn't even know she did it. I'm going to take it as a positive that it was not an intentional mistake, and that we can train and try and fix rather than an intentional violation. So who's involved? First of all, me, the superintendent, Mr. Sample. Ultimately, I'm the responsible party. It falls on my shoulders. If it's in my district, if it's in my buildings, I'm the one that has to clean up the mess, so ultimately responsible. Staff, they're not knowledgeable about copyright laws, at least not all of them are. I would say that my media specialist is probably my main character that is involved, along with 2 other teachers. And then my PTA, they're supportive, they help with fundraising, they want every dollar to go as far as possible. They are not knowledgeable about the copyright laws, but they are involved and they have played a role in this, so they are important to consider. And then not listed, but also important are, of course, our students, because everything should always tie back to our students and how we support them in the best way possible. So to put everything in perspective, did Mr. Sample use data? Was he culturally responsive? Was there evaluation? Was there development? Was there implementation? Was there promotion? And how will this impact the current and future perspectives of this? So first of all, I don't feel like a decision has been made yet. We've used the data that we know to start the very first part of our investigation, but we don't have enough data. We need to know more. Formally and informally, were we culturally responsive? I would say yes. As far as we have gone, we have done the best we know how to do. I need more information to be able to make a super big judgment on that, but I think we're okay from this point in time. And then as our plan goes on, we'll go over the evaluation, development, implementation, promotion, and then how it will impact the current and future successes of our district. So our legal and ethical issues, and this might be the most important part of our case study, is knowing exactly what was violated. So I wanted to go ahead and make sure that we had a good understanding of copyright. So a school or district can be held responsible for copyright violations committed by its staff. So because my staff member did it, the school and district can be held responsible for it. It happens when a person posts content to an organization's website, domain file, server, or web-based subscription service. This organization, or the school in this case, is now the host and is distributing the content, even if the person who posted it moves away, retires, goes to work at another location, is fired, any of those options. It does not eliminate the responsibility to the copyright holder. So the organization is the one that is responsible for it. Now, along with that, nonprofit status like USDs have or public ownership does not provide a haven for the law, and public schools are subject to provisions just as other agencies and or businesses are. So just because we are considered a nonprofit does not mean that we don't have the same expectations. So this slide just lists what understanding copyright and what it is. So the Copyright Act is a copyright law that pertains to original works of authorship that is fixed in any tangible medium of expression. I'm not going to read this out to you. If you want to go back in your spare time and do it, you can, but that is understanding copyright and how it was violated. So some statistics that I found were interesting was that between 230,000 and 560,000 people in the U.S. lost their job in 2017 due to digital video piracy. I think that's insane. I had no idea that would be so high. More than 80% of digital video piracy is accredited to illegal streaming. In 2020, about 130.5 billion visits to pirate sites, half of which were related to acquiring TV content. 30% of internet users faced piracy sites through search engines, And streaming is illegally made up of 93% of TV and 52% or more of piracy. So I just thought there was some interesting stats that many of us have probably made the mistake of doing. So current implications for in our district. Physically, no one has been harmed, no one is injured, nothing is like, holy cow, if I don't act within the next 2 hours, we're gonna have everything destroyed. There was damage done, but it's something that can be solved as it's thought through, and slowly. It doesn't need super duper like immediate attention as if a crisis would. We did break the copyright laws, and we need to intervene in order to stay compliant and credible. So what exactly is happening? If I had to sum up what exactly was happening in just one sentence, I would say that despite copyright restrictions that govern the reproduction of multiple copies without permissions from the author, several flash drives were distributed with copyrighted materials. So we took materials that we purchased from licenses, we put them on flash drives, and we passed them out to other members of our school building, and now they are being used even though we have not purchased the licenses. So the facts, the people, places, and programs, and then what I am missing, which is going to be probably my biggest slide. So the facts, there's a superintendent. He's also the K-8 principal, and it is his job to intervene and help find a solution. The most important player in this case study is probably my media specialist, and my biggest concern right now is that she's really not trained and she's not licensed, and that to me is probably my biggest red flag. That's something that I want to fix as quickly as possible. From a fundraising standpoint, I have my PTA. They want their dollars stretched. They don't understand why there was a violation. They are helpful, but they they don't have a very good understanding. They also currently seem to like the superintendent or myself, which is good. Students who it all ties back to, and then of course our other stakeholders that are within our system. The place, we are in State City School. We have 420 district-wide students in our K-8 building. We're very small. It's a shared admin position, so I'm pretty much alone in my role as admin, and then I have the award that I answer to. There is no high school. Our students are bused to the nearest high school, which is 25 miles away, and so we are 25 miles from the closest city. So the program, as it relates to our case study, our program is a computer lab that has 20 computers that we used our PTA funds to purchase, and we purchased software programs that teachers vetted and wanted and are aligned with instructional objectives, which is great. So what's missing? First of all, I would love to have a clearer picture of our budget. From what I could understand, it was pretty minimal, like most budgets are, but I need to know more. I also would love to know board policies as it relates to computer usage, AUP usage, and copyrights. I also need to know what my relationship with the board is, because that's going to play a big factor, especially because in such a small town, there's probably a pretty good chance that a board member or two are also part of my PTA, and that they are probably also okay with the copyright violation. So I need to make sure that I know what those intricate relationships are and how I'm going to navigate that. And then that leads into my second point, which is the relationship between the board and the PTO. What are those informal networks that happen, because they happen everywhere in small districts? And then previous infractions and how they've been handled. If I had to guess, I would say that this is not the first copyright infraction that this district has been a part of. So just what was done in the past, how it was handled, and how many maybe other infractions even there are that I have not been made aware of that's happening in the day-to-day in our classrooms. Because if I had to guess, I would say there probably are some. So tying into my information and my stakeholders, information and stakeholders, it's going to be critical to inform all different stakeholders of the solution to the situation. I don't know that we necessarily need to tell them exactly what happened, but I do think that we need to make sure that they know how our issue was solved and handled, and what our next steps are going to be. I think this can be done through site council meetings and open forum meetings. Honestly, in a small town, word travels quick, so you probably don't need to have any meetings. You can tell one or two people, and the town will know within the first week. All members need to have an understanding of copyright policy to understand the why behind the decisions that are being made. And then what else needs to be learned? I need to know how much it's going to cost our district to legally purchase the programs that we want to use. How much would it cost to get more licenses, and how could that look from a budget perspective? And then what legal and ethical issues are we currently facing with what has already been done? So back to what I said a little bit earlier, I think there's probably more. This is probably just a surface level that's going to lead me to find a lot of deeper issues that are going to be need solved. And then how can we probably train not only our media specialists, but the rest of our staff also to avoid another infraction? The staff member that reported the copyright violation was one that came from a previous district, so had that training that had paid off in this district. And I need to find a way to make sure that all of my staff is aware of that, because the cost for the short-term training is going to save me bootloads of money, I could see in the future when we avoid having a lawsuit. So options and consequences. This is when we really get into, what can be done, what are we going to do, and then what do we think the best option is. So the first option is to do nothing. This is the easiest option, but the one that's probably not going to be the choice. Option 2 is to legally purchase more software, and I just documented on there that a software license is a document that states the rights of the developer and a user. It's a piece of software. It defines how the software can be used and how it will be paid for. Option 3 is collect all of the copies that have been made and make sure no others are made. Come up with a long-term plan to purchase more software. And that would be done through your strategic planning process. And then option 4 is to do option 3, but also make sure there is ongoing training so that we don't have this happen again. So in going through the pros and cons of all those, option 1, in the short term, it's the easiest solution to do nothing. But the cons, that's really not an option. We have to do something. It's not beneficial to students. It's not legal. It's not really an option. So option 1, kind of off the table. Option 2, legally purchase more software. I mean, honestly, I love this option. It's just not feasible. It could be done immediately if we had the budget for it, or if we could do some super major fundraising. It would be benefiting students, and it's legal. Cons are it's expensive. I don't think that we could probably even afford it if I had to guess. Which brings me to option 3, collect all the copies that have been made and make sure there are no others that are being made. Pros, this can be done immediately and it's more cost effective for the district. Cons, students can no longer use the programs they've been using already and it's going to be time consuming. I do think it's important to note that I feel like I should be the one that is responsible for collecting the programs and the flash drives. I had told my media specialist that she was going to do it and got some pushback, so I don't super trust that she's going to. I think that my best bet will be to just go room to room and pick up what has been sent out and make sure it gets deleted off of computers. And then option 4, ongoing professional development. So pros, you can have annual review of copyright policy and regulations. That would be a way to implement the plan. It would be the responsibility of each teacher and librarian to keep school staff informed and to use the copyrighted materials to maintain appropriate records of permission, agreements, licenses, and registrations. And then we would work to place appropriate copyright warning notices on or near copying equipment. Cons, again, expensive and time consuming. So what is our choice? The best option? The best option is going to be to do a combination of all the above things besides option 1, which is do nothing. So I would say for the most part, we're going to do option 3. We're going to collect what's been given out. We're going to educate, and we're going to educate a lot about why it was not appropriate. And I want to do this in a manner that is sensitive because my media specialist did not intentionally do this. She thought she was doing the best she could. She thought she was serving students. She thought she was saving money. There was no ill intent. So finding a way to kindly tell my staff that was not okay. And then make a long-term plan to purchase relevant licenses, as it is our goal to be innovative. I want to make sure that we are strategic in figuring out how we can buy more software licenses to make sure that each class is getting their needs met from an innovative standpoint, and then offer relevant and consistent professional development to all of my staff. I think that would be my best way to move forward. So the implementation of the decision, how are we going to do this in a step-by-step process? Choose our path. So we chose option 3. I think the first step is going to be communication. So I would think about what was going to happen and consider the outcomes and how the consequences will be managed. The first day after I say what's going on, people are going to be mad. They always are. They're going to try to find ways around the system. How can we, download this without her knowing? How can we get around the firewall or the filters that would block this? It's going to take a couple of days for people to calm down and realize that, hey, we messed up. We need to backtrack. We need to problem solve. We need to have a strategic plan, which is the next part, the strategic planning. I think it's going to be critical that as we tell them, hey, we can no longer use these software licenses, we say, but here's our plan moving forward. We're going to do this fundraiser and that fundraiser. Here's our long-term buying plan for these different programs. By the end of next school year, our hope is to legally have all of this software in classrooms, so that they know, okay, we haven't had it for this long. One more year isn't going to make or break our classroom instruction, or at least it shouldn't. We do want to make sure that we're legal and that we're compliant, making sure that we have all of those. So then implementing that, again, I mentioned earlier, it's going to be critical that I'm the one that goes around and chats with individual teachers. I think I'm going to also have to really, really work with my media specialist to make sure that she understands that she broke copyright and then can help me. I'd like to give her some ownership of it and have her help me teach and preach about it after she has a good understanding of it, and maybe even take some of that responsibility in helping manage current licenses. I think that would be a good way to bridge that gap, maybe repair a bridge if I needed to. So I determined how to deal with the persons involved. I truly feel like nothing was done with ill intent. I think my media specialist kind of fired back because she was caught off guard when she said, don't you want to stretch our dollars? The PTA president was happy with me. I think that's probably a defense mechanism because she was caught off guard. So I want to go back and just have a collaborative conversation about how we can correct the action and make things right. I'll also have to navigate my PTA pretty carefully by just explaining copyright laws, how they were violated, and how we are going to do a long-term plan to help with the solution. If my plan of action doesn't work, what is plan B? Plan B is going to have to be to probably replace a position. I hate to have to do that, but I can't have somebody that's going to continuously break the law. It's going to be too difficult in the long run, and that's not how you build culture in a building. You build culture by doing the right thing even when nobody's looking, and so that's part of what we would have to do. But I'm pretty confident in the path I've chosen that it's going to work, especially if I am already well respected within the district and within my PTA and by my teachers, which by the sense of the case study, I think I am. So that is my path and how I would do it. Concluding statements and how this kind of all ties together and ties to our standards. PLO Standard 6, I worked to develop, communicate, implement, and evaluate using data-informed decisions. Relevant, understanding and teaching copyright laws to those you supervise in a principal or superintendency role is critical, particularly in a small district when you're tech support. So, for example, right now I'm in a pretty large district. I don't worry much about copyright because anything we want to try in copyright is already blocked, and we have a couple of services that we use so that we can show movies legally. I'm at a blank on what that's called off the top of my head, but it has been a convenient service, and our tech director does a really nice job of making sure that everybody is aware of copyright laws and infractions from like day one, which is great. In a reflection, I would just say that I want to make sure I'm confident and comfortable with copyright laws, knowing what board policy says about copyright, and making sure that my staff know and are comfortable with the copyrights also. So overall, I enjoyed this case study. I found it interesting to see the different things that I could do. I always love learning through case studies. They feel like they're connected a little more to real life, which is helpful from my perspective. So I enjoyed that. I enjoyed this class, and I look forward to working with all of you in other classes in the future. Thank you.